Hello, I'm Peter.
And I'm Harry.
And this is Man Up,
Man Down.
the podcast where we talk about growing up in the 21st century as a young person
Our experiences with mental health.
and the things that we have to go through as young people in this modern day and age.
We'll be discussing several topics over the course of, I think, we're going
About 8 weeks.
about 8 weeks we're looking at. And the idea is that we draw our own conclusions, I guess, at the end of each topic that we discuss, kind of figure out for ourselves. We're learning, aren't we, whilst we're doing this?
So, Harry, episode 3.
Episode 3, we're on already.
How have you been?
I've been well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, we're just where we sat today. We've seemed to have chosen a different location every single time. So today we're outside Age UK.
Age
So,
UK, another charity. Is that going to be your next walk? You're going to be doing it for Age UK?
I don't think so. But yes, we've parked the car up and we're all set for another talk.
Night time this time, isn't it? First time I think we've done it during...
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. But it's got darker. Although, to be fair,
evening. Sorry, it's winter in it, so it's not particularly late. It's 6 o'clock.
Yeah. But today's topic is going to be school experiences.
And our special guest.
So we've got a guest on today, and it's our second guest, but it's the first time that we've had 3 people on the microphone at once. So let's let our special guests introduce themselves and why we're talking to them about school experiences today.
Hi, I'm Charlie Betts. I'm a friend of Pete and Harry's. I don't really know why I've been chosen to talk about schools, but I do have a different schooling experience to them guys. Them guys went to school in Manchester. I went to school in Lincolnshire. Didn't know them at the time, whereas they, I think, knew each other. So it's a kind of different perspective, maybe.
Yeah. So should we start by? Well, I should say as well how me and Charlie know each other. So I know Charlie through university. So we're kind of traversing backwards right through to the beginning of our school experiences and education, and the education is the tie that binds us. So should we start off by talking about a little bit briefly? I suppose we can't go too much in detail about it because it was so long ago, but a little bit brief about primary school and our experiences in primary school. Do you have any kind of standout moments?
Well, I've got a question actually. First of all, did we all start? Because not everyone does. Did we all start in nursery? Some start in reception, don't they? Or some even later. Some year 1. You'd be surprised.
Really?
Some people get a little bit homeschooled before.
What about preschool? Because I don't know if either of you attended preschool. It's not a required part of the education system. But my parents did pay for me to go to preschool. I think it was, I can't really remember it because I think it's between the ages of 2 and 4 preschool.
That's the same as like nursery.
It's a very
but it's before nursery.
Oh,
So
right.
you do a year of preschool, or then you go to nursery. I think preschool's almost, rather than an like formal education, it's more childcare, and like it helps you develop socially. By interacting with other kids, and it also serves as like a childcare option for your parents.
So Harry, you didn't go to...
No, I did. No.
You didn't get the social skills.
No, I've just never had them. Where I'm from, in obviously Prestwich, Greater Manchester, we do call it nursery. We don't call it preschool. So it's obviously we have nursery at a primary school. But I guess in essence, I did attend preschool. So
I think what I'm trying to say is my preschool was different from nursery. So I would attend preschool for a year.
Yeah.
And then I went to nursery. Then I progressed into reception and year 2 and year 3.
If they're similar, it was all just fun at that age. It was just you were just like making art or out like on the climbing frames or whatever. Or, yeah. It wasn't really like there was. I'm sure there was some educational aspect to it, but I can't really remember that far back.
Well, I think what's important at that age is less formal education. It's not about passing exams and learning about history and geography and
I'd be in
science.
trouble if it was at that age.
It's more about at that age. It's more about learning how to function as a person. So it's about learning how to socialise with other children. It's about learning through play a lot of the time. So you learn a lot of your logic, a lot of your instincts, like honing your instincts, honing your just natural ability to move and use your body in a proper way. It's less about formal education and more just learning how to actually use your muscles and move and play and use your mind.
And it's a chance to make mistakes that you wouldn't get away with as an older child as well, I guess. Whether that be social mistakes or
I disagree.
Stuff.
I think that the earliest stages of childhood, of course, you get telling off, but it's all you've got to make those mistakes to learn and develop. And I think the earlier you do that, the better you are, the better you progress. As you mature and grow up. Like So I was going to mention that actually. So, if you say preschool, or for me, the nursery before nursery, do you think that makes quite a significant difference to the earliest stages of primary school? So, for the people that haven't gone or attended preschool or that, do you think that there's a difference?
Missed out. Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference almost in social skills and that? I'd agree. I think that there's a difference. I think the people that do attend earlier,
I'm not sure. I suppose they're probably just better at making Play-Doh castles. Really, I don't think there's anything that they massively miss out on. I don't know.
I think we were all too young to really have a proper opinion on that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I think I can't really relate that to myself because I can't remember myself then, or I wasn't old enough to have critical thinking skills then to really decide whether it was useful or not.
So I guess we'll do it in key stages.
Yeah.
No pun intended. So let's say nursery in primary school to year 2.
Yeah.
How did you find it?
Key stage 1, isn't it?
Key stage 1, yeah. So how did you find key stage 1?
Pretty good. I did key stage 1 and key stage 2 at different schools. So I did key stage 1 in Yorkshire, and then I came to Manchester for key stage 2. Pretty good. Don't really remember a lot about it.
I remember reading a lot. There was a lot of books.
Yeah, a lot of spelling tests.
Spelling and books was kind of the main thing early on, wasn't it? What about yourself, Charlie? Obviously, because you did a different background.
I mean, fairly the same. I think it's the same everywhere, isn't it? Really, it's about like I said, fundamental, like simple skills. So like spelling. I remember learning the difference between your, and your.
I still haven't. No, I'm kidding.
Like stuff like that basic stuff. My school was very friendly. It was a very family oriented school. There was a lot of diversity in my primary school. So I guess that's good because it's exposing you to different cultures and different beliefs from the get-go.
Forgive my assumption. Obviously, I remember you saying all the time that from where you're from, it's quite small. Like not very well. Obviously, not populated like Manchester. Was it like? What was your class sizes like? Were they?
So Scunthorpe. I'm from a place called Scunthorpe in Lincolnshire, and it's kind of population of 70,000, so it's kind of comparable.
It's a big school size.
The town's population 7,000. It's comparable to Bury, I suppose, or Bolton or something like it. So it's not small, right? It's just Manchester's particularly big. And perhaps if you've grown up in Manchester, that's your default. But for me, Scunthorpe's not a small place. It's more than Manchester's big.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But as a place, it's not particularly diverse, Scunthorpe. I know I just said my school was quite diverse, but mostly white, mostly working class. It's a steel town, so it's not the most prosperous area. The schools aren't the schools. All the schools I attended were good, but they're not. They've not got the funding that they need, and that's probably an issue everywhere, really.
Yeah.
My primary school was in particularly like the only area of Scunthorpe that was diverse. It was an area where there's a lot of Polish, a lot of Romanian, a lot of people who originated from the Middle East. So a lot of people from Iraq and Syria especially, which is why my school was so diverse, but that's not necessarily the case for most schools in towns like that, in working class towns like that. So my primary school is kind of unique really, because most people with my background wouldn't have been exposed to that diversity at that age.
Not from that age, I was going to suggest, yeah.
So I guess that's the biggest takeaway from that stage, because the actual things you learn are kind of the same no matter what school you go to.
Yeah. Did you have like I suppose key stage 1 there's not as much learning going on compared to key stage 2 and 3 and 4 and stuff. Did you have like a favourite lesson in key stage 1?
Always art. I always loved art growing up. I don't know where I kind of I remember we did quite a lot of art and that, and a lot of history actually, which was good.
I remember a lot of history.
Did history from quite
Great Fire of London.
Yeah, but we connected a lot with art. So like we studied the Great Fire of London, and then we had to draw the Great Fire of London and our own interpretation and that, which of course was a lot of fire. And
I remember doing bizarre stuff like having to measure my own shoe size.
I thought that was going somewhere very, very odd then. Let's get back on track.
I thought there was an issue when the teacher took his clothes off.
Oh, for goodness sake!
Did you have like did you have a least favourite lesson then?
Funnily enough, English. Because we did do a lot of spelling. I didn't think I was ever dyslexic because I didn't know what the word meant when I was that age. As I grew up, I became quite confident at spelling. I became better because we did do so much of it. But early on, I remember just dreading it, and comprehension that we did as well, grammar and everything, and that from an early age. I couldn't really get my head around apostrophes and different types of punctuation and stuff. But yeah, further on, obviously down the line, you know, the later stages, I enjoyed, you know, we did a lot of creative writing, a lot of stories and stuff like that. I started getting more into reading at that age, I think, as I progressed, because it wasn't just, you know, reading books that were, I guess, mundane. You know, there was more interesting stories down the line. Did you have the what were those books? It was about a spy. It was like Alex something.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Do you remember the books? Yeah,
I've never read them,
good.
but I did see them. Yeah. And Horrible Histories, they were big ones as well.
Yeah, we had them, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch Horrible Histories? In history?
I think we did actually. Yeah, during.
I remember I used to bring it in. So obviously, if we were learning about the Greeks, I would go home and get all the horrible. You know how Horrible History episodes like sorted into segments of like different time periods.
Yeah.
I used to get every episode. I used to get the Greek bits out of every episode and put them all together into a compilation, and then bring it in. And we used to watch the whole compilation of the whole Greek. Every sketch done about the Greeks.
We mentioned books and that. What did you? Were you watching a lot of films in your schools from an early age? Did you get a lot of films?
Do you mean like on rainy days?
Yeah, like Disney films and that they put on, or
Pole Express every Christmas.
Yeah.
That one about the sharks at the car wash.
Yeah.
Whatever that's called.
The snowman with us. What's it called? The flying snow. It's not called the flying snowman, is it?
It's called the snowman, isn't it?
The snowman. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really remember anything I specifically watched, but I do. I just remember the TVs you used to bring in. I don't know whether it's the same for you guys.
Roll it in like you won it on a game show.
So it'd be on this big like wheelie stand, and then it'd be for what is now a very old blocky TV, like none of this UHD LG curve technology or anything. Just these big like blocky TVs brought in on these wheelie stands. But I don't remember what I watched, to be honest. I just remember the stands.
Do you guys have that policy where you had to you began with a pencil and you had to earn your pen, your biro?
Yes. And I never got it.
You never got it?
No.
What was your handwriting like?
Yeah, it's just shocking.
Incoherent or something, yeah.
We had specific handwriting classes. So, well, actually, not for everybody. So, for the pupils who were worst at handwriting, so we had to messed up that point really, but we had to learn cursive handwriting. So, you know, linking.
Oh yeah, we did that
by default.
Yeah.
And the loads of us that were the worst at it had to go to these special lessons to like hone it in. And I was one of those. And my handwriting was bad then, as it is now.
We never have to write anything nowadays, do we? It's all typing that we do nowadays.
Yeah, but I don't suppose that was known then, really, because remember this was before the iPhone.
Yeah, true.
Did you have things like reading buddies and peer mentors, like the year 5, 6s and that? Did you have?
No, I had that in high school.
All right, okay. No, we had those in primary school. They were quite beneficial, actually. I think I don't recall having a reading buddy. I was quite a confident reader. I know I mentioned I wasn't the best at spelling, but reading I was quite good at.
Should we talk a little bit more about, you know, Key Stage 2 and the more advanced stage of primary school? So by this point I'd moved to Manchester. Year 3 was when I came to Manchester.
Because you began in Bradford, didn't you? That was where you...
Yeah, that was when I did my first primary school, did Key Stage 1. So for me it was quite a drastic change, having to change schools. I mean, did you guys ever change schools? Or
No, that was something I was going to suggest. I don't know about Charlie.
I did reception through till year 5 in one school. I then moved to the other side of town for year 6, just for year 6, which was kind of challenging because by year 6 everyone's made the friendships and everyone's got the friendship groups. So moving to a new school at that point is kind of hard. And I didn't really make any friends that year. It was a weird year.
I mean, I was going to say, even now at the ages we're at, you know, I know you guys have pretty much finished uni now. I know Pete, you have, haven't you? But even at the ages we're at now, that change from college to uni and forming friendships and that, you know, perhaps if you're living at a new accommodation and that, and you're exposed to new people, it's not easy even at the ages we're at now, is it? Forming friendships and that.
Yeah,
and
it can be difficult when you're not in, when you know.
So at that age, I can.
Yeah, I think I found it very difficult because I had, I guess kind of what Charlie just said is that I had a load of friends in Bradford, so to feel like I had to start all over again, especially when I just kind of got to a point where I had friends, you know, because I'd only been at school for 3 years. I just felt like I'd finally got friends, and it was like...
Well, that's something we can talk about in general, actually, because that's a big aspect to think of school is. So, from primary school and that, friendships, how was it? Did you have many friends, guys? I'll start with yourself, Peter. Did you have many friends, or did you keep quite close circle? Or?
I had so when I was in Bradford, I had one guy friend, and then I had a few friends who were girls, and then when I came here, I kind of had kind of primarily guy friends. Usually one or two, quite a close knit group.
Yeah.
Yeah, did alright, I guess. I don't think I ever struggled to have friends. I struggled to have a big group of friends, but I always had a close group of them.
I'd say early on I had a best friend, and then I kind of, I met my friends of today, and that, or some of them at least, because I think I kept quite a small circle. What about yourself, Charlie?
So in primary school I had quite a big group before I moved. Probably were a bit rebellious and not probably the best kind of people, looking back in hindsight. Moved to a new school just for year 6. Didn't really make any friends in that year because by then everyone's like established themselves. Moved to secondary school, made kind of a couple of close friends, maybe 2 close friends early in the school. Drifted apart from them as school progressed, and then made a new group of friends towards the end of school. So yeah, never short on friends, but not like, was never in sort of this massive clique. I was never a popular kid.
I obviously would never name names, you wouldn't know them anyway, but in my school I remember I used to feel obligated to spend time with people that, appeared lonely and didn't have friends, and I don't regret that because, I even now I can really, sympathise or empathise rather, because I did have friends. I empathise with the situation. I feel like from an early age that can really kind of have quite a psychological, impact on you and how you grow up.
It's like I don't think schools do it as much now, but it was like the thing of being picked last in PE.
Yeah.
I think that was always quite a difficult thing.
Well, I think that is still a thing now. I think that's like a permanent child problem, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, I know the teachers were trying to help when they try and involve, someone with a group, but it's almost humiliating in itself, isn't it? You know what I mean? If you're someone and a teacher's coming up and going, "Hi, this is Harry," for example, like, spend time with him and blah blah. It's like, when it's forced like that because you haven't got the confidence at that age to to introduce yourself or to speak. Introverts from an early age, I feel like that they always maintain that reserved nature, don't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As they grow up, it takes a big thing, I think.
Do you remember your first day at high school? Do you remember settling into high school? Do you remember the kind of first few experiences, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
High school was like, it was freedom in many ways, because it seems irrelevant now, but just the freedom of walking between classes. So we'd have English in one block, but then to get to science or to get to history or whatever, you'd have to walk through the quad, through another building, and then to another building. Could maybe stop at your locker and get a drink out your bag, or we have vending machines at one. But it was a freedom that you never had at primary school, because in primary school you was in one classroom, you was under the controlling thumb of the teacher like all day, because you were kids. But then you go to secondary school and it's like you do a class, then you're responsible for getting yourself to the next class, and that feels big at that age. That feels big.
Yeah. Did it take you a while to settle in though, or was it something that came quite naturally?
I don't know. I think I settled in quickly enough.
Did a lot of people carry over from your primary school to your to the same high school, or was it?
No. So we.
No.
By a weird quirk of when we moved house which is why I moved to the other primary school. The primary school I went to wasn't in the catchment area of where I now lived.
All right.
But it just had places. It was the only school places. So when I finished primary school, when I finished year 6, I moved to a secondary school that was in the catchment area of my house, which meant the other kids going to my secondary school came from the primary schools in the same catchment area, aka ones I didn't go to. So I didn't actually know. No one from my year 6 primary school went to my secondary school, and no one from my older primary school did either. So it was a completely new bunch of people for me.
See, that's really interesting, because my primary school was across the road from my high school, and
do you know? Can I just say, I feel like that would feel like a lot easier. Do you know what I mean? Because it feels like, you know, you're seeing
same
the new
walk
place.
school
Yeah, it's like you're seeing the new place just across the road that you know you'll be going to.
But
I agree. That's almost not new because you've got the same people. It's across the road. Like, it's less of. I mean, or maybe minimising your own experiences, but it almost feels less of a thing.
Well, I think we had 36 people in our primary school class, 36, and I'm pretty sure there was about 33, 34 that went to the same high school. So it wasn't so difficult really for a lot of us because even in the same forms we were kind of together a lot of the time.
Did you both attend many open days for your high school before joining?
No.
Because that's the thing that I
went
think
to
made
one.
it difficult for me. I've not mentioned actually about myself, sorry. I personally, because it seems like you two settled quite quickly, which is great. That's what you want. I found the transition from year 6 primary school to high school really overwhelming, at least initially. Like, because I hadn't attended many open days. It was the fear of the unknown almost. It was, you know, new responsibilities, getting my own transport there now with the bus and that, when I'd always been used to walking or getting a lift from parents. It was you know, the introduction to new people. I didn't know how I'd be perceived. Obviously, you want to create the right impressions, but it's not always easy.
Did you have people from your primary school?
I did. I was fortunate that I had my closest circle of friends. I mean, that's honestly the reason that I went, to be honest. Is a lot of people don't they? Because they don't want to leave their friendship groups, and that was a big factor for me. And obviously, it was, you know, still local to my area and that in Prestwich. So, but yeah, no, I found it difficult in the beginning to settle in. I think that, you know, it is quite a monumental change, isn't it, that early on? That's kind of like your first real... Well, it's not actually your first, because you two suggest, don't you, that you've actually changed during primary school and that changed schools, so big thing, definitely.
Did you have... So did you find... This is a bit of a kind of a complete change of conversation, but how did you find stuff like school dinners, for example?
Charlie?
Did you bring a packed lunch, or did you pay for a hot meal?
So I paid for a hot meal, and I find it a bit of a funny thing because thinking back to school dinners in secondary school, it feels very akin to what prison dinners are represented as in films, because you walk in and you got these big long tables. I mean, it might have been different in our schools, but these big long tables, very, very similar to what you see in prison movies. And you kind of have to find a place to sit, and like if your friends aren't already there, you have to kind of sit alone in shame.
Yeah.
And I only really had 2 friends at that point, so if I arrived before then, I'd just be sat there.
Did you used to rush when you were with your friends because you didn't want them going outside on the field or whatever, and you didn't want to be the last because then you didn't know, because then the bigger kids would sit next to you, and you'd be the small fish in the big pond. You know what I mean? It was, I used to hate.
I actually used to quite like school dinners, like the actual food.
The food was amazing.
Yeah, I think it gets a bad rap. I think I used to always quite look forward to school dinners actually.
Well, we had the best time before Jamie Oliver changed and made it all healthy. we had the all the different custards, the pink custard, the mint custard, the chocolate custard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you used to, you know, did you have a finger to... Well, obviously I know you did. Did you have a finger to scan to get your money on?
Yeah, not from the start of secondary school, but it got introduced about halfway through.
Yeah.
We also had this weird queuing system. So first half of secondary school, we had this weird queuing system where... so it's like year 7s will go first, then year 8s, then year 9s, then year 10s, then year 11s. And they'd rotate it, so it'd be like... You basically have to wait outside in a quad, which is like this open area in our school. And then the dinner ladies would come out with a sign saying, year 10s can come in now, and the year 10s will go in and queue in the corridor. And there's this big winding corridor towards the dinner hall where they queue up. And then they go, okay, year 8s now, and whatever. And
you did that ours, didn't they?
Yeah, and they'd change prioritisation. Like if year 11s were doing exams that afternoon, they'd get the year 11s in first or whatever.
Yeah,
and,
we did the same.
So yeah, that was really weird. So I had that, and then they changed the system, and it changed to a thing where you had to pre-book your food. So they had these little touchscreen ordering things around the school,
fancy.
Where you ordered your food, and then you put your fingerprint on, and it paid for it. And then you got a little receipt, and then if you showed that receipt to the dinner lady, you could just get in the queue straight away.
From an early age.
But then if you didn't order your food in advance, you had to wait for everyone else to eat the food, and then you'd be allowed in and usually everything would be run out. Yeah.
Can I ask Charlie, in primary school? Sorry, just to go back to primary school. I know we're flipping, but you know, school, isn't it? Still school. Did you did you have like obviously was your dinner hall quite big? Was it quite, you know, because I remember ours was quite, well, in high school and primary school they were quite quite echoey. Do you know what I mean? Quite loud. Did you find that kind of overwhelming from an early age?
So my first primary school, it was just in a gym hall, I believe.
Okay.
So basically just set
We
up
had the
loads.
assemblies.
No, it wasn't. Actually, no, it was a specialised dinner hall.
Okay.
But it's kind of just a big room with tables in. Then my second primary school, I can't actually remember.
The reason I asked the question is a lot of people, I'll ask you the same, Peter, in a second. A lot of people suggest that that's one of the things from school that they remember quite badly. it's like they don't.
Dinners?
No, not the school dinners. They have. They don't have the best memories of. You know, like when you're initially introduced from an early age. I think it's like key stage 1. I'm not sure. You start. You go into the dinner hall, but obviously you've got all the older year groups in there. And it's quite big, it's quite loud, it's quite echoey. You just got this cacophony of different sounds and everything.
Quite
and it kind
intimidating.
of, yeah, it can be. I was going to suggest, like, is that something that you?
I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, with high school, one of the things I did was at the start of the year I signed up for as many clubs as I could, so I'd get an early dinner pass, and then I'd go and get early dinner every day for the rest of the year.
Oh, so you were almost like
So
you
I
were
made
before
sure-
all the big kids and that.
So I'd never go to the clubs. I'd just get the pass and then I'd be through.
Dinners throughout,
Yeah.
you know, high school, primary school, even college as well. Like they were always really good, weren't they?
Yeah.
To be fair.
Pasta King.
Yeah, no,
That's
they were
quite
good.
good.
I remember them. Yeah, streets won't forget.
I honestly think high school food and especially college food would even stand up to my standards today. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
it was
100%.
it was
yeah.
actually pretty good. I mean, there were always things that aren't so good. But yeah, it's all right. My school did a lasagna that was really good. Fish and chip Friday. That
Oh,
was
of
always
course.
solid.
Yeah, a lot of
Jam roly
schools do
poly.
that, don't they? Jam roly
And we had
poly,
these
yeah.
cornflake
cakes.
cornflake cluster things.
Cluster, yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. So did you? I suppose we'll go on with a bit more of a cheery conversation before we go on to the doom and gloom of GCSEs and choosing your options and stuff.
Who says doom and gloom? No,
Yeah,
I'm
you
kidding.
enjoyed it.
No, I didn't.
Did you go on any kind of? I suppose this is both primary school and high school. Did you go on any school trips that you enjoyed, or anything
Yeah.
that you thought was a good day out?
Yeah, I got lucky. I went abroad twice with school.
Cool.
So at the end of year 7, we went to Boulogne in France.
Wow.
I don't actually know what the purpose of the trip was. Probably forgotten, or maybe it had no purpose.
Yeah.
I remember going to an aquarium and a beach, and yeah, that was a thing. But I don't really remember that trip particularly well. But then in year 9, we went on a Belgian battlefield trip, which was probably the best school trip I ever did, and one of the best trips I've done in my life. Full stop.
Is that like one of those? It's like you act out the battle.
No. It's like you go to Belgium and northern France, and we visited a lot of the sites of World War I and World War II battles.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And we could walk around there's places where the trenches were still there, like they've been preserved. Went to the biggest World War II cemetery, which had something like it was at the site of the Battle of the Somme, and it had 30,000 graves in there, and all those people died within the space of a day in the Battle of the Somme.
Wow.
And this is like gravestones as far as you can see, so it has a big effect on you. And it was it's just a really, really enjoyable trip because I'm into history anyway.
Spoke about grief episode 1. Charlie's had an experience with graveyards, hasn't he?
So yeah, that's the thing. They were great trips. And I think we probably had local trips as well, more UK based ones. Did you guys go abroad at all with school?
I went to you went to North Wales, if that counts as abroad, in year
No.
7. That was the introductory week, wasn't it, in school? I assume you went to that as well, Harry.
I did.
Introduction
That
week.
was the only one actually.
Yeah, and then I went to Paris in year 8 for I guess a week. It would have been a week, and then I was only abroad when I think.
Was it a week? Or was it a week of romance?
Well, maybe we'll say that for another podcast. That story, unless you want me to tell you. It was a good week. It was a good trip, and it's one of those where I look back now and I think I was maybe too young to appreciate it. I'd love to go to the Eiffel Tower now. I'd love to go to Paris now, but I think as a 12, 13-year-old, I wasn't really taking it in as much as I could have done. And I had one of those really rubbish cameras.
Did you go on the Barcelona trip?
No. It was Venice, wasn't it, for us?
Venice. Oh, you went Venice, didn't you?
I didn't go Venice.
Oh, you
no,
didn't. You didn't
no.
as well.
Sean went to Venice. Yeah.
I only went to the North Wales one. I remember the North Wales one quite fondly though. It was good. Actually, it wasn't bad. This was at a time though that it was very. I mentioned I was overwhelmed early on, joining high school. So this was at a time that I really was struggling quite a lot with mental health. I know it's not the podcast. I'm just saying
that trip was. I do think there was a lot on that trip that I don't know whether it was necessarily positive or negative, but there was a lot that did put you out of your comfort zone. So I remember there was like an obstacle course we did, which I kind of hated at the time. And there was a disco we did on one of the nights, which again I felt a bit was out of my comfort zone.
I didn't attend that.
I actually got in trouble on one of the nights on the Wales trip because I'd stayed up all night talking to someone. So my form tutor came out and he got me to write out Aladdin in Welsh, hand by hand.
That's such a random thing.
Yeah, because he was like, I want you to copy out this book by hand, and it was the only book that we had available.
Aladdin in Welsh?
Aladdin in Welsh, yeah. And then I got like maybe 2 pages in and he was like, right, go to bed now. But yeah, I enjoyed the school trips on the whole, and I think the thing with school trips is they always had to make an excuse, didn't they, as to why it was related to the curriculum. So like, I think we went to a monkey enclosure once in year 3, and they were like, oh, it's a geography trip because monkeys are related to geography.
Are they?
But they'd always try and find some sort of connection.
Monkeys are related to humanity. I wouldn't suggest places.
Biology trip, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah. But school trips are always fun. I don't think there's ever a bad one. I went to London. Went to Harry Potter World in year 10.
Well, that was good actually. Yeah,
it was good. I went to a trip for food technology, which was like a big conference hall of a load of bakers and stuff, and a lot of new technology for bakers. And it was near Christmas time, so there was a load of nice Christmas cakes, and there was one of the winner that had won Bake Off was there. So that was quite a good trip.
Did you do stuff for like the industrial revolution? So did you go to the mills and the factories?
Went to Helmshaw Mill, did that.
Yeah, I think
that's
that's
a lot of school
the one
trips actually. Yeah, I didn't.
Well,
we went to Magna once, which is this big it's this steel factory in Rotherham, former steel factory. It's now like a science discovery centre, but you can actually, it's preserved in its steel factory state, so you can go inside the blast furnaces and stuff. It's really cool. Yeah,
and
so a lot of things like that.
I remember one of the best ones as well when I was much younger was we went to a trip to the World War II shelters, like the underground shelters, and we dressed up as like 1940s evacuees, and at the end of the trip they basically said to us, oh yeah, you're not going back to your parents now, you're staying with us. And everyone's like, there's some people that started crying and like they probably tricked us to say we weren't going home, and then they were like, nah, you are coming home. But that was quite a good trip. There was loads of good trips. Malham was good. Malham was like the day after I had a foot operation, and that was like a lot of steps to walk up. But that was good. And they filmed Harry Potter there. I'd love to go there again sometime. That was good.
It was good actually. I really enjoyed Malham. Yeah, the countryside.
So going on to, I guess, the slightly more doom and gloom topic of GCSEs. What what was your first experiences of having to choose them? Was there any reasons you chose the ones you did? Was there anything that you wanted to pick that you couldn't?
I don't think it's particularly doomy or gloomy, to be honest. I chose geography and history, which was a bit unique because you had to pick one of geography and history.
Yeah.
And then you could pick 2 more practical things. But I chose both geography and history because I love both. And then did travel and tourism. We had to do religious education at our school, religious studies, I think you call it around here.
Religious education we called it.
Oh, you called it RE as well.
Did you have to do ICT? Or was that an option?
That was an option.
Because we had to do that.
It was branded an IT college, IT high school, wasn't it?
I guess so. Technology college.
In a similar way, I was branded a language school, so we had to choose a language.
Yeah.
At GCSE, but I had a great time in GCSE. I didn't revise at all, yet still got A's and B's in most subjects. And yeah, I was in a high set, and I've never been particularly academically challenged. So
some people aren't they? Just
so
quite
so I didn't find it particularly traumatic or okay, it's challenging, but it wasn't as big a thing as they make it out to be. All of your education up until that point.
So you mentioned that's news to me. You were an A student.
I was an A student. Not for everything, but yeah, I got 3 A's, 3 B's, 2 C's, or something like that.
That's
so
brilliant.
Pretty average, maybe
I think
tiny bit above.
I think people take in information differently as well, don't they? That's the whole thing with and in a way, I think that's why the exams is not the best idea for schools, because not everyone learns in the same way. And I would say that, for example, my brother, he kind of drifts his way through exams. That's not to say that he doesn't try, but I think things go into his mind a lot easier. Whereas I have to really sit down and really learn stuff.
I'm the same. I'm someone that if I don't revise, then I will fail.
Yeah.
I will say I revised for one exam, and that was my RE exam, religious education exam, and that's the only one I got A star in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got A star 2
So
A's,
do you ever think though? I mean, if that's Do you think if you would have spent the same revision on the other subjects that you could have also attained A stars in those rather than A's?
Yes, but I don't really regret it because I don't think that affected my further study at all.
No, true, to be fair.
If it was a case where I didn't get onto what I wanted to at college and I didn't do what I didn't want to do at uni because I didn't get all A stars and didn't revise, I'd regret it. But it hasn't at all affected my career or my future decisions, and I don't think in hindsight the GCSEs are quite as important as they made them out to be. So no, I don't.
But I suppose like to an extent they are important, aren't they? Because like, I mean, Harry, would you say that you, and maybe this is a personal question, but would you say that if you tried hard at your GCSEs you could have been in a better position now, or do you think it was more college that messed you up?
100% college. My greatest academic achievement was in high school. I think it was generally A's, B's and a few C's. So I did really well actually, because I was never academic. I'm still not now, but I do remember doing a significant amount of revision, and I think that's what got me, pretty good GCSE results. I was surprised at how many A's I actually got. So
do you get stressed with any exams?
Every one of them, yeah.
I used to get really stressed.
The whole. But I just the thing is I've always struggled with the discipline of revision. It's so because I used to, play so much football, and I had quite a social life back then, way more so than now, I'd say. So I think that, during that time, I struggled with the discipline of, do the revision and then do this. Good friend of mine, an old friend of mine, he used to say, give yourself an incentive. So do the revision and then give yourself the reward after. That helped me quite a lot.
That's what I used to do. I actually, because that's when I was in like year 10 and 11, that's when I started getting into a lot of the Doc 2 audio dramas. So I had this big box, I think an old computer must have come in, and I basically said to myself, I'm not going to open any new Doc 2 audio dramas until my exams are finished, and every time one came through the post I'd put it into the box.
Yeah.
So this box kept getting more and more in it, and by the end it was great because there was loads of stuff in there. So that was good. What was the most difficult exam for you? Because for me it was French and Spanish speaking exams. I used to find them, I think, more because of the pressure of having to sit down with someone for 5 minutes, and it was quite intense, and having to talk to them for 5 minutes I found quite difficult. Was any of the exams that you found particularly challenging, or was it kind of...
I got kicked out of my German GCSE before the exam stage.
So did you? You got kicked out of one of the French ones, didn't you?
No.
For passing a note to someone.
Yes, I'm with you now. I thought you meant I was thinking of in the big exam hall, but no, I do remember that. We could no doubt talk about my experiences in French another time.
Why did you get kicked out then, Charlie?
So I was a really good student. I was well behaved. I was perfect across everything. But our German teacher was just... I don't know if you're allowed swearing on this podcast, but she's a bit shit.
Yeah.
/bad /beep. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. She had favourites as well, which was annoying. Anyway, I ended up being deemed a bit of a bad influence because me and my friend would basically just, let's be honest, make inappropriate jokes about Germany, and we would like just laugh and joke and be loud in class. And I was, rather than my friend, I was deemed as a bad influence behind that. So I was kicked off the GCSE, which was great because that meant I had a free period during German lessons. And I regret not knowing a language, but I also don't think having that German GCSE would have meant I knew the language, because language teaching in schools in the UK is absolutely rubbish.
It is the way, I guess it's the way they teach it, because I've got both French and Spanish GCSEs and so have you, Harry. But and I wouldn't say that I could hold a conversation in either of the languages. Don't know if you could necessarily, but
the GCSE that caused me the most stress, without question, wasn't maths. Even though I wasn't gifted in any way at maths, it was English, because the big thing I struggled with was always my timing. No, it was always my timing, and obviously, looking back now at English in particular, it just made no sense to me having to analyse a word in such a way that it's like suggesting that this word correlates this, it means this, it blah blah, and you'd never do that in imagine a journalist doing that or something, or a writer. It just doesn't happen, does it? I understand.
I do think English literature is very subjective in that way.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is it develops analytical skills and I did poorly in literature as well. That was the only subject I got a C in. But I think the idea is it develops analytical skills and whatnot. I didn't enjoy. I had the same experience as you. Really, I didn't really enjoy it, and none of it really made sense.
Did you enjoy literature or English language more?
Language.
Enjoyed language more, but it was the fear of the unknown. It's like I loved it with GCSEs where you knew, like with maths, you knew what you had to study to pass and to do, or to do better. Whereas with English, it was because it's so open to interpretation. You'd get the case study, wouldn't you? And it'd be a scenario. It's always like a holiday thing or something, like a holiday park or something, and you had to kind of write about that and what you'd do and how you'd, persuasive writing, wasn't it? So you'd have to explain, you'd make everything up, wouldn't you? But because you're under the pressure of time, having to do that and organise and plan, it's like you'd have to do your planning before writing and then doing it, and separating that for me was difficult.
Yeah.
With maths, did you start? A lot of students start at the back of the paper, didn't they, and worked
forwards? I don't think so. No, I think I actually did it in order.
Yeah.
I think I was very surprised that I don't know about you, but I kind of, maybe this just shows that my self-esteem wasn't very high, but I was very shocked to find that I'd passed all my GCSEs. The only one I failed was art, and I was very surprised to have done so well in them.
What made you take art? Because it's interesting. A lot of people that take art pass because they're good at art. That's why they. No. I'm just saying that's why they take it. Do you know what I mean?
I chose art because I could have done triple science, but I thought that would have been too much pressure and too much stress. So I was like, I don't want to do triple science.
So it was a subject you took just to avoid a subject that.
So I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I didn't do music because I hated music, and I wanted to do drama, but I didn't like the teacher. If I'd liked the teacher, I would have done drama in a heartbeat. But
yeah, I did drama.
Me and the teacher didn't always see eye to eye.
I remember I really wanted to do PE though, and similar to Charlie's situation where it was one or the other with geography or history. I raised it with a lot of the staff. I said I want to do PE and I want to do drama. Why can't I do both? Do you know what I mean? I'd said like that they're both creative in a sense. It's they're both open to interpretation and that in your own way. So they did in the end. They allowed me to do both. Unfortunately, they were two of the subjects that I did the best at. So. Yeah, no, I was happy with that, but I never understood that really, why it was like you had to do one thing or the other. It's like, surely if you're choosing your GCSEs, you'd think you can do, as long as it's, however many subjects you have to do.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. It is weird how they divided them up, I guess. Because,
Yeah.
I guess like Charles said before, if you like history, you probably like geography as well. So the fact that in our school it was very difficult to do both of them.
Yeah, it's a strange
weird
one to be honest. Though it was like you could only do one technology, couldn't you? Like if it was designer technology or.
I think you could have done two, but then you would have had to have not done any of the art, music, or drama, maybe.
Yeah, it's like you could either do it was like resistant materials, and if you like food technology, you could only do one or the other. And it's like, well, why? Do you know what I mean? If you enjoy cooking and you enjoy working with wood, like.
Yeah. So going on to kind of passing your exams in school, do you remember results day? Do you remember your feelings around that?
It's like, when do I open the old envelope? Yeah, I do. I was terrified, honestly. I didn't expect to do as well as I did, but yeah, no, in the end it was good. What about yourself, Charlie?
I was, at the risk of sounding a bit cocky, I was never particularly worried about how well I was going to do, because I knew I was going to do well.
No, that's good confidence.
And I did, and I don't know. It wasn't as stressful a time for me as it was for some others.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I was pretty stressed about it. I remember we did some exams in year 10, didn't we? So we did French in year 10, and we did like core science in year 10.
Yes, those were the two subjects. Yeah, I remember.
And I was on holiday in France when the results day for those came out, and my granddad rang me up and he was like, "Oh, you've got 2 Bs," and I thought he said Ds, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sad." But then I found out it was Bs, and I'm quite happy. And then year 11, I guess, there was a certain amount of stress, a certain amount of worry, but everything worked out, as these things do, apart from arts. But I'm probably never going to need art, am I?
Did you enjoy science practicals? Because we never did them at primary school, but obviously I was introduced at high school. I loved them. I was a bit of a weirdo. It's like all the dissecting and that.
Where you put the jelly baby in the thing and it pops out.
What thing?
The jelly baby into a test tube.
Oh right, I see. Yeah, no, and we did obviously for learning anatomy and that, and we'd have a lamb heart or
Dissected
something.
Heart. Yeah, I never liked that. I tell you one lesson I hated actually, and probably my least favourite lesson, if you count it as a lesson. I used to hate, especially in the first 2 years of high school, Key Stage 3. I used to hate PSHE because I used to some of the videos they used to show in those.
It'd show you like one of those old commercials of fireworks safety and someone to get the face blown up.
Road safety videos. I had to leave.
They were proper graphic, weren't they? In fairness,
I got to a point where I had to leave. Like whenever there was videos coming on, I had to leave the room.
There was always someone. I
was quite sensitive.
I was gonna say out of like 30 kids in a class, you're always gonna get a few that don't like blood, and they never really check beforehand, like for safety reasons and that. Some people faint during blood and that. They never really did that in school, did they?
But the thing with me as well is I think it got to a point where like I found the road safety videos quite disturbing, so I'd go out for those, and then the form tutor would be like, "Do you want to go out for this one?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, right then." And actually, it's probably nothing that would have.
Do you know though, from the 80s, 90s though, that was the entire point of them, was to scare you,
shock you,
because then you'd think back and you'd think, God, I'm getting my seatbelt on as soon as I get in the car, because you'd think you go back to it. So they do work, but it's almost it's quite traumatizing from an early age.
But I think if it's somebody that's got quite a vivid imagination, or somebody that will follow the rules anyway, it can almost be a detriment, because it'll just scare them more than they need to be scared.
Oh, so you think like scare them to the point that they don't want to ever get in a car,
leave the house, or don't want to.
But I think it's a bit agoraphobic. Yeah.
But I think that for people that they need to be told certain things, like don't get pregnant when you're 12, that sort of thing, they'll do it anyway. No, they'll do it anyway.
Yeah, it's like drugs or anything else. So that it's like you're taught from young that they're bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to stop anything. Really. I mean, I don't know. It must have some sort of positive effect, otherwise they wouldn't do it. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like that was a lot of
Do you think that things like finances, banking, politics, things that we need when we're older, were taught well enough, or do you not think they were taught enough in high school?
No, and you could kind of dovetail that into a conversation as well about, how did you feel sex education was in school? Because I don't even remember sex education.
I don't remember doing many lessons of it at all, honestly.
I think it was like 1 a year, 2 a year maybe. But there certainly wasn't a lot, and
You just like put a condom on a banana. And
didn't even do that. We didn't even do that.
I think sex ed was fine. Like, I mean, a lot of that comes down to just not being an idiot, wear protection. That's about it, innit, really. But definitely life advice and like mortgages and banking. It's like everything.
We had a bit of that, didn't we, Harry, in year 10? I think year 10 and 11.
Yeah, I mean, they had to be careful, obviously, because a lot of people during those adolescent years, I'm sure, were struggling coming to terms with sexuality. That's when you learn, isn't it? Whether you're straight, gay, bi.
I think they teach a lot more about that
or,
now,
or something else. Yeah,
expanded that.
No, but that's the thing, is we never did that in sex education. We never explored, because I can understand why from an educational point of view. It's like it could be quite sensitive for people going through it. Do you know what I mean? I don't remember much at all. But to me, the real sex education would have been teaching you how to speak to girls. That would have been a lot more helpful. They would have done that from an early age.
I don't think that's necessarily
an
academic pursuit.
Yeah,
more social skills, isn't it? Really. So going on to like, I guess it kind of again nicely dovetails into talking to people and social skills. Did you ever find that you were bullied in school, or was that not something that ever happened? Were you the bully?
No, and I wasn't bullied. I was fortunate that. No, I don't think I ever experienced anything like that. From like primary school, I used to get a bit of stick for being small. I was always the smaller kid, but I wouldn't say it was bullying. It was just, the thing is, I was always very good at initiating humour out of whatever the joke was at my expense. You know what I mean? And that kind of, it was always a natural response I had. I wasn't ever taught it. It was just something that came quite naturally to me. So I wouldn't say I ever. And fortunately, I can say I was never a bully. I would hate to look back and think that I was ever a bully to someone. And I remember actually.
Me.
I remember. Oh
no,
God! Well, sorry to hear, mate. Sorry. I remember in primary school, we had a support group for a lad that was being bullied, and I was kind of like the co-founder of that group. And
the primary school, did you say?
Yeah. And we helped him, and we introduced him to new people, and we got him getting more social and out of his shell. He actually, I won't name his name, but he went to our high school as well. And I don't know what he's doing today, but I know he's got a very good job in IT and a girlfriend, and long-term girlfriend and stuff. So yeah, no, I know. Like, I created that group for him, and now look, he's it's like, I need the group now.
We've got it. That's what the podcast is for, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyhow, yourself, Charlie. Sorry, personal question, but on the subject, were you bullied?
Or did you bully?
Or did you bully?
Yeah, I was bullied a bit early in school.
Was that in high school?
Yeah, mostly because I didn't know anybody at that stage, because a lot of people had pre-existing groups and shit from from primary school. I didn't, so that was the main reason. But kind of got through that by the end of the year 7. But then from then on, no, not really.
And yourself, Pete?
Mostly in primary school, more than high school, I think. I think it was kind of... I don't even know if you'd necessarily call it bullying, but there was a lot of kind of like... calling someone gay was a bullying tactic.
Yeah, we had that in school.
So I remember once holding the door open in assembly, because that was my job for that day or whatever, I guess, holding the door open in assembly. And like people I didn't even know would just would say, no, it's Pete, he's the gay one. It's like, well, I'm not gay, and if I was, then what? That's not really an insult, is it? So it was more in primary school, I guess. But then in high school I had like one-off things where like, I remember an older student once putting some chewing gum in my hair, like that had been chewed up, which wasn't very nice. I remember...
No swirlies down the toilet then, I hope. None of that.
No, I remember...
One of those American ones.
I remember having my head being put in a bin once in science.
Oh, so not far off a swirly then.
Yeah, do you remember that?
I don't remember it happening to me.
I had a...
Oh, wait, so you're suggesting this was in...
science, yeah. I found a bouncy ball in the corridor, so I was playing with this bouncy ball in science lesson, and one of the students put it in the bin, so I went in to get it, and then he pushed my head into the bin. So yeah,
that's not funny. But in hindsight, I'm imagining that, and that's quite funny. It's not
no, but
funny,
the thing is, the best thing is about it is that as painful as experiences are when we're
it's in front of the whole class as well.
But the thing is as painful as experiences are when we're younger, obviously mine were different. I was never bullied. I just had psychological issues and that. But we can look back and almost with a lot of things, we can laugh about them. And I think, I mentioned before that that's how I dealt with any, minor jokes at my expense was humour, and it's a big thing. But I feel like it is a skill, and if you're not necessarily equipped with that, then you could be vulnerable to quite more major bullying and stuff getting out of control.
I used to get picked on for like skipping the videos in PSHE. So when people used to come out of the class, they used to go, "Oh, Pete, was that too much for you?"
Yeah.
Which wasn't very nice, but it was nothing major. I never had a major bullying thing from what I can remember.
Well, a bully gets his power from seeing someone affected, don't they? When you don't give them that attention or that, if they see you're upset, then they're going to prey on it. I think, incidentally, that was something that perhaps you suffered with a little, was you kind of maybe... I'm suggesting it, sorry, I'm speculating, but maybe you bottled quite a lot in. You didn't necessarily want to speak to people about it. Obviously parents, but did your parents ever come in and speak to teachers, or... I know that's quite personal.
I guess at parents' evenings and stuff, they talk a little bit about PSHE and the effect that had on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the whole, yeah, it was kind of fine. Yeah, I quite enjoyed school actually. I mean, it's weird because although I was quite sensitive in high school, and I think I became more and more sensitive in high school rather than primary school. I think I was also quite confident. So I remember, in year 7, I told off a group of year 11s for littering. I shouted at them and I was like, "Pick up that litter now!" And I was only in year 7; they were year 11. But I was not scared of older students so much as I had been in primary school. So I had a newfound confidence, I guess.
Was that because you were under the impression that they weren't going to get physical? Because that's the thing with me, that's the difference, is I wouldn't, because I would be in fear of getting beat up.
I guess my assumption was then, or certainly would be now, is that it's all on camera, so even if they did beat me up, it's like, well...
Is that what you were thinking?
Do you know what I mean?
I'll be speaking to my lawyers.
Yeah. I did get, actually, talking about getting bullied, I suppose it wasn't really bullying, but I did get kind of almost strangled in the corridor once. That wasn't very nice.
I would say that's bullying, Pete, to be honest. Getting choked
out.
It
was more of a kind of headlock, I guess. It came out of history, and I used to stand next to a guy called...
Yeah, you can't say, yeah.
He wasn't... Maybe I should.
No, you will not. No. Off-brand there, Pete.
Yeah, and he kind of wasn't very nice. But again, I think he was just trying to impress other bullies and other people in his group.
Yeah.
But he kind of got me against the locker, and I genuinely couldn't breathe for a few seconds. It wasn't very nice.
I remember a lad...
permanent.
There was a lad that... And I really regret this, actually, because, in primary school, like I say, I stood up for someone that was bullied. And I recall there was a lad that was... early on, year 7, 8, he was really bullied. And he was a lovely lad as well. That was the worst thing. It wasn't like he was someone that... No, I don't think anyone deserves bullying. I think it's a very low cowardice act. But... I remember seeing something on Instagram, and it was that because he'd always got picked on for being dumb, supposedly. That was the thing. They suggested he was, that he lacked intelligence, but in obviously a very malicious way. He's now got a degree and a very good job. And I saw that on Instagram. I saw him celebrating his degree, and I thought, wow, it's
I
like
know who that is,
it just goes to, you might know who I'm referencing, but I saw that and then the pride I felt for him, because I just thought, he's these people
them all wrong,
it's like these people that are bullying perhaps have they've failed college or they've dropped out or whatever, or they're not doing particularly well. My circumstances were different. I see he's pointing a finger at me there. My circumstances were different. I wasn't a bully, but but yeah, no, it's like, I feel immense pride for him, for his family, and every all his I mean, I was friends with him in school, but I didn't back him enough. That's the thing that I think are more.
Didn't support him enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, because we had, in primary school we had a guy who he kind of started a bit late, so I think he started in year 3, and he decided on his first day, which I guess must have been winter, he decided to go onto like the football pitch, but it was all iced over and he slipped, and I don't know if he lost a tooth, but certainly he was bleeding from his mouth and it was pretty gory. But because he was crying after that happened, he was kind of called the crybaby for the rest of like primary school. Yeah. And he used to cry a lot, to be fair, but like that was one thing that people used to pick on him for. And I think people are very easy targets a lot of the time, but not. But they shouldn't be, I guess.
We have got a special guest here, by the way. Sorry, we've not spoken to Charlie in a while. So yeah, we've kind of covered bullying there, haven't we? I think, and it's good that at least we're all swell today. I'd like to think.
Yeah.
So I was going to suggest quickly what I'll start with primary school, because I don't think nursery, even nursery and primary school, reception, I don't think we can really remember that much. What would you say are kind of maybe the 5, or maybe 10 if we've got time, the 10 most like nostalgic elements of school that you can recall? It's like, I say we go.
Me for 10, or is it 5?
No, I say we go round.
Let's
until
do it
we get
school
10.
in general, like the whole education.
Okay, so I'll give one, and then we'll go around each other. So for me, the benches. Getting the bench in year 6 was a huge deal. I remember the cramp you used to get sitting down. We used to have to sit down with our legs crossed, our arms crossed, and we used to have to hold like a shush finger up to suggest we weren't talking. So yeah, benches.
I think for me, and it's kind of one thing that I've realised by doing this podcast is that I think the school trips are pretty phenomenal. Like I kind of thought before we started recording, I was like, yeah, school trips are kind of fine. But like the amount of stuff we actually did and the amount of school trips we actually had, it was pretty good. Like I guess there's probably at least one a year, even if it was just a day trip, and they were pretty good on the whole. Yeah, I think they did pretty well.
My especially primary school takeaway would be finishing school, and then there's a little shop by our school, and my uncle, who used to pick me up from school, used to give me and my brother £2 to spend in a shop after school every day, and it was the best £2 so much when you're that age, and it was just very going in a shop and getting all the penny sweets and Freddos, and during that time you could get about 4 or 5 chocolate bars for £2. It was great.
Yeah. So if we talk a little bit about did you have someone come in to talk about careers, in terms of, did you have someone that you had a careers advisor or careers meeting, and how did you find that? Because I know for me, I was quite unsure as what I wanted to do when I was 14, 15. I kind of had an idea that I enjoyed filming and editing and stuff, and I enjoyed art, although I don't know if I was that good at it, and I enjoyed history.
Evidently not, you failed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I saw an opportunity.
You're the bully now.
This is what happens later on in life.
So for a long time I really wanted to be a history teacher. That was quite a big thing on my mind, but I guess I decided to go more into the filming route. So what was it with you guys? Did you find it quite easy to decide what you wanted to do as a career? I mean, obviously you didn't, Harry, because you've not got a job. But did you find it quite easy to
friendly fire
decide what you wanted to do in life?
No, I mean, you know what? Honestly, as much as we joke, you raise a point that
pressure,
with the fact that I am still unemployed, and I don't feel a sense of direction. I think that's a big thing with myself. Is I have struggled for a long while coming to terms with what perhaps I'm skilled at. Like I know certain things I've got skills in, but I've not really explored opportunities. So yeah, I could say that. I think we only had careers advisors in college. Earlier
we had it in school.
No, I didn't. I don't think in high school.
In the library, did you not have to go for an hour? Like it was literally.
Actually, yeah. No, in fairness, I do recall. Actually, we had careers advisors in high school as well.
Yeah.
Come in. What was it called? Connections, Kev.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah.
I think it's a woman I had, but yeah.
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 Yeah. Connections are a good organisation. Actually, they do help. But
it worked for you, didn't it?
Yeah. All right, mate. Crikey! No, you're bullying me. Is this just become a bullying podcast? It's like that's our next topic next week. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, careers. I mean, I attended quite a lot in college. I was there quite a lot of weeks just to, and I'd basically go and I'd say, "Help me, I don't know what to do." I'd be like, well, what do you enjoy, Harry? And I didn't have a clue because I just didn't know, and I felt that pressure because it was like I didn't want to let my parents down, and now I feel like I have. It's a weird one. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what about yourself, Charlie? Did you have careers advisors in high school?
Not really, but I got quite lucky, and I always knew the direction that I wanted to go in the media realm, and it was just about lasering in on specifically what I wanted to do within that. So I never really had issues there.
Was it quite easy for you to get into college and do what you wanted to do, or did you find that quite a difficult path?
No, that's quite easy. I got good grades, so getting into college was quite easy.
Yeah.
And then, did college, got to uni, and it wasn't so much of an issue.
Well, the big thing that let me down was college, obviously. I'm not going to get into it, but I did have a lot going on mentally. And I'm not going to use that as a complete excuse for my grades, but it was a huge aspect of my failures.
Do you wish you could go back and change that?
Oh, 100%. Every day. Because, and I always say I'm someone that doesn't want to, because I know that adds a lot of pressure, and mental stress is looking back with regret over things. But I do, because the reality is, I mentioned before, I'm someone that has to revise to achieve. And I didn't in college, consequently. I didn't. And looking back now, even as much stress as I was under, I think that if I would have put the effort in spite of how much I was going through at the time, it would have been so beneficial to me now, because I would have had, I would have had UCAS points that perhaps I could have explored a course at uni, or, I could have, there's so much you can do, and that's the thing is just because you're not necessarily academic doesn't mean that you can't, achieve. It's just about the effort you put in, because I've always believed that. I don't think that we're like inherently smart or dumb or anything. Do you know what I mean? It's about the work that we put in. Of course, it helps, like as Charlie said, to be naturally academic and that. But still, as Charlie says, you still got to put the work in. It's not like Charlie's just been sat back and got those grades and everything. No, you still got to. Yeah. So I do. I was going to ask yourself, actually. I would assume not, because I know how well you've done post college. But would you go back and change anything?
In college or in school?
In college, I'm thinking now, yeah. In college, as we move on to later school in life.
I guess college for me was quite difficult in some ways, because I went to 2 colleges. So I went to 1, and then it closed down after a year because there was only 3 students on our course. Well, 6 students, but only 3 that turned up. So I had to go to another college. And I guess, it's interesting. Everybody that I've spoken to seems to have hated college. There's nobody that I've spoken to that seems to have enjoyed college. So yeah, would I do it? I don't know. Would I change anything? Probably not. I did alright in college. Yeah, kind of got me where I needed to be. One last kind of topic of discussion, I suppose, that we could talk about is: do you remember ever getting told off in school?
That was something I was going to ask us, actually. Is it in school in general? So from the very earliest point of nursery to reception, year 1, were we naughty students? Did we get in trouble?
I remember getting told off once because there was a guy that was bullying another guy, so I smashed him into a brick wall.
Right. You didn't mention that when we were on the topic of bullying.
No, because he was the bully, so I don't think I did anything kind of too violent. I think it was just kind of a little push into a wall.
Not too violent. I smashed him into a brick wall. Is he all right today, Pete? Or is he? I hope he's not in some sort of vegetative state.
He is, but I was sticking up for someone that's being bullied, right? So
fair play. I've always thought that violence doesn't really solve much, but hey.
He did on that occasion. He never bullied the guy again. Right. He didn't actually. Did that. I wasn't very proud of that. I was like 4 years old, I guess. 4 years, 4 5 years. The one big time I remember getting told off in school, again it was primary school. I think it was year 6, might have been year 5. Was I drank some paint water.
Right then.
Basically, we were painting some trees. We were doing some nice paintings of trees. And we had a supply teacher for one of the lessons. I don't know where the main teacher was. He was probably off doing something. And had a supply teacher. And somebody in my class was like, Pete, drink this water that the brushes go into. And I was like, imagine doing that. And they're like, it's Coke. And I was like, yeah, sure it is. So I drank some.
Oh my goodness gracious me.
I drank some. And anyway, the supply teacher found out. and then they moved me down on one of the steps to
Did you
success.
find out when you started? I mean, I don't know what happens really if you drink paint, but I can assume it's not particularly healthy.
I mean, I was alright, but I got moved down to one of the steps to success, so I got moved from gold to silver, which is what we had in school.
Right.
And then the main teacher comes back and he moves me from silver to bronze. So all I did was drink a tiny bit of paint water, and I got down moved two steps.
I see.
So, but that was my finest moment, I guess.
I was naughty in school, in primary school. I used to really be. I'd do stuff deliberately to get into trouble. I think that's the I'm not proud of it looking back. I can laugh about it because there was a lot of very funny moments. But I used to, like I say, I was rebellious. I was never a bully or anything, but I did used to, kind of. I like being the class clown. I like the attention. I honestly I did from an early age. I don't mind saying that because I was young. I humbled myself in high school. I was still a bit of a class clown, but. Like I say, I always loved to have a laugh, but I stopped being naughty in particular and rebellious in high school because you become humble when you're introduced to new crowds of people and you start growing up as well. But it was only really primary school I remember I was really naughty, and I used to get I'm not expelled in that because I was never like violent. I didn't get into fights or anything, but I just used to. Yeah, I just used to I could. We'd be here all day if I spoke about the stuff.
I remember doing something really bad in I guess year 1. Maybe it might have even been reception. But I remember doing something really bad, which was I used to hate going outside at break times and lunch times. So, as a 4 or 5-year-old, this is so bad saying this now. I used to bang my head lightly against the wall outside the school so that I get a bit of a bruise, so that I could go to the school nurse and stay inside.
Did you not just do the radiator trick? You'd put a face on. It was my earliest experience as a drama. I could have got an Oscar in primary school for some of the stuff I did.
Did you ever phone in sick to work? I mean, not phone in sick, I guess, but...
No, I couldn't do it.
I never did that.
I feel like Peter Kay, but I couldn't do the sick voice. What about yourself, Charlie? So, what were we discussing? Sorry, it was... were you naughty in school?
Not particularly. I was fairly well behaved, other than the German thing I mentioned before. I was I was fairly well behaved, yeah.
No, that's good.
That's good.
I was a prankster, I'd say. I was a prankster more so than... Yeah,
like in English and maths, I remember you used to mess about a lot. Not mess about, maybe mess about. I remember...
When I used to get the teacher to say certain...
Teacher,
yeah.
Also, you did used to get kicked out a lot of French. You remember you had a little desk outside in the corridor that you used to sit on.
Yeah, I don't know why you did that to me. That was just humiliation.
You did used to mess about a lot, though.
Yeah.
But I did that. So, I guess the last discussion is, did you ever do any after-school clubs?
I did actually in primary school when my parents used to work in the middle of Manchester and that, and they wouldn't get back till later. Yeah,
How did you find that? I used to hate the one I went to.
I loved it, I had my friends there, so it was good. That was the fortunate thing. I think if I didn't, then I would have hated it. It was that simple. But because I had my friends there, and we did a lot of different activities. It was all usually indoor based in the hall, but sometimes we went outside and we did like activities in the park and stuff. Because obviously we had a park across the road, which was fortunate, in a field.
I've got one last question for you in particular, Harold.
Okay.
Did you have a favourite school assembly song about a certain harvest festival?
Cabbages and greens, broccoli and beans. Yes. Yeah, no, the streets will not forget the Harvest Festival song. We had that Believe song as well. What was it? When I look up to the stars, there's a burning deep inside me. And hymn practice is what we called it in primary school. I used to love it because
my granddad used to run the assemblies,
I used to get kicked out of that a lot because I'd sing deliberately really poorly and pretend it was X Factor. I used to pretend it was X Factor, and the teachers at the side would be like Simon Cowell and all that.
Thumbs down.
Used to keep me on. It was a bit more than that, but I enjoyed music all through school. Actually, on the subject of music, quickly, I know you said you didn't enjoy it in high school and that, but we had a character of a teacher, and I think did you think very quickly? Did you think we explored the practicality of lessons like science and music and art and all these subject design and technology? Do you think we explored the practicality as much as we could have? Do you think?
I guess so, yeah.
Well, is that it? All right. Well, I think that might be a wrap.
Charlie's given us the signal that he wants to go, so I think we should wrap this up. But
he's got to go to school.
Yeah, get his uniform. It's school night. It is a school night, actually. So yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Harold.
As always, want to say thank you to our special guest, Charlie.
Yes,
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. We can't wait to go.
Join us next time when we'll be talking about something. It might be we might do fears next time, or I don't know. Hopefully, we'll get.
Let's liven it up, Pete. Man Up, Man Down, episode 3. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.